Why do 95% of people fail to create lasting change despite wanting it desperately? Because they're having the wrong conversation with the most important person in their life, themselves. Your self-talk isn't just inner chatter. It's the programming code that creates your reality. When you learn to speak to yourself with precise language, emotional conviction, and strategic timing, you literally rewire your subconscious mind to manifest your desires. In this video, you will learn the exact words that bypass your conscious resistance, the timing that maximizes subconscious receptivity, and the emotional techniques that transform wishful thinking into inevitable reality. The words you speak to yourself in the silent chambers of your mind are not mere thoughts floating through consciousness. They are living forces that shape the very fabric of your reality. And when you understand this fundamental truth, you will never again treat your inner dialogue as inconsequential chatter, but as the most powerful creative force you possess. Every moment of every day, you are engaged in a conversation with yourself. And this conversation is determining the quality of your life, the nature of your experiences, and the trajectory of your destiny. Yet most people remain completely unconscious of this internal dialogue, allowing it to run wild like an untended garden where weeds of doubt, fear, and limitation choke out the flowers of possibility and achievement. You must understand that your subconscious mind, which governs 90% of your mental activity and controls every aspect of your bodily functions, your habits, your automatic responses, and your deeply held beliefs, does not distinguish between what is real and what is vividly imagined. It accepts as truth whatever you consistently tell yourself with feeling and conviction. This is why a person who constantly says to themselves, "I am not good enough, I am unlucky, I always fail," will invariably find that life presents them with experiences that confirm these beliefs. Not because the universe is cruel or unfair, but because they have programmed their subconscious mind to perceive and attract circumstances that align with their dominant mental patterns. The ancient wisdom traditions understood this principle, which is why the Bible states, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he," and why every great spiritual teaching emphasizes the power of the word, the creative force of speech, and the importance of guarding one's thoughts. For they knew that consciousness precedes manifestation, that the invisible realm of mind is the birthplace of all visible effects. Consider how you speak to yourself when you make a mistake, when you look in the mirror, when you face a challenge, when you contemplate your future, and you will discover the blueprint of your current reality, for your self-talk is constantly broadcasting instructions to your subconscious mind, which faithfully executes these commands without question or judgment. The person who habitually thinks and says, "I am prosperous, I am healthy, I am loved, I am capable," even when external circumstances seem to contradict these statements, is not engaging in wishful thinking or self-deception, but is actually reprogramming their consciousness to perceive opportunities where others see obstacles, to find solutions where others see problems, to attract supportive people where others encounter resistance, because their subconscious mind, having accepted these positive affirmations as truth, automatically guides them toward experiences that validate these beliefs. When you begin to consciously direct your self-talk toward what you desire rather than what you fear, toward what you want to become rather than what you want to avoid, you initiate a profound transformation that begins in the invisible realm of thought and gradually manifests in the visible world of form. Yet this process requires more than mechanical repetition of positive phrases. It demands that you infuse your words with feeling, with conviction, with the emotional intensity that impresses these new patterns upon your subconscious mind. The subconscious does not respond to half-hearted affirmations or doubtful assertions. It responds to what you feel to be true, to what you accept with emotional certainty, which is why a single moment of intense feeling coupled with a clear mental image can be more powerful than weeks of lukewarm, positive thinking. You must speak to yourself as if your desired reality already exists, not in some distant future, but in this very moment, for the subconscious mind operates only in the present tense. It does not understand the concept of tomorrow or someday. It only knows now. And when you say, "I will be successful," you're actually programming yourself to remain in a state of wanting, whereas when you say I am successful, you activate the creative powers of your mind to manifest success in your experience. This principle operates with mathematical precision. It is not subject to chance or luck or external circumstances. It is a law as reliable as gravity, and just as you would not jump from a building and expect to float upward, you cannot fill your mind with thoughts of lack, limitation, and failure and expect to experience abundance, freedom, and success. The quality of your inner dialogue determines the quality of your outer experience. For every word you speak to yourself, whether silently or aloud, is a seed planted in the fertile soil of your subconscious mind, and these tides grow according to their nature, producing after their kind with absolute fidelity. When you repeatedly tell yourself that life is difficult, that success is reserved for others, that you are unlucky or disadvantaged, you are programming these beliefs into your mental computer and your subconscious, which accepts whatever you persistently impress upon it, begins to create circumstances that match these expectations. A man came to Dr. Joseph Murphy and said he had been affirming wealth for months but remained in poverty. And when asked to describe his mental conversations throughout the day, he revealed that for every minute he spent affirming prosperity, he spent hours worrying about bills, complaining about prices, resenting wealthy people, and telling himself that money was hard to come by. Thus, he was like a person trying to fill a bucket with water, while dozens of holes in the bottom allowed it all to drain away. Your casual self-talk, your habitual mental commentary, your automatic responses to daily situations, these carry far more weight than formal affirmation sessions, for they represent your true beliefs, your genuine expectations, and it is these deep-seated patterns that shape your reality. The woman who spends 5 minutes each morning affirming perfect health, but then spends the rest of the day noticing every ache, researching diseases, discussing ailments with friends, and identifying herself as someone with a weak constitution, is broadcasting conflicting messages to her subconscious, and in such cases, the dominant thought pattern always wins. This is why consistency is not merely helpful, but absolutely essential, for you cannot neutralize 23 hours of negative thinking with 1 hour of positive affirmation any more than you could purify a stream by adding a cup of clean water to a river of pollution. Your subconscious mind is always listening, always recording, always accepting, and it makes no distinction between what you imagine vividly and what you experience physically, which is why the mental rehearsal of success can be as powerful as actual practice. When you repeatedly visualize yourself achieving your goals while simultaneously affirming your success with deep conviction, you create neural pathways that your subconscious accepts as real experience, and it begins to direct your actions and attract circumstances that align with this programming. The transformation of self-talk requires vigilant awareness, for most people speak to themselves unconsciously, automatically, habitually, allowing their minds to run like wild horses without direction or purpose. You must become the observer of your thoughts, the editor of your mental conversations, the guardian of your inner sanctuary, for what you allow into your mind will eventually express itself in your life. When you catch yourself thinking thoughts of limitation, lack, or failure, do not condemn yourself or feel discouraged. Simply redirect your attention toward thoughts of expansion, abundance, and success. This redirection must be accompanied by feeling, by emotional intensity, by the conviction that what you are affirming is not wishful thinking, but absolute truth. The subconscious responds not to the words themselves, but to the feeling behind the words, and a single affirmation spoken with deep emotion and unwavering faith can accomplish more than 1,000 affirmations recited mechanically without feeling. You must feel successful before you become successful. Feel abundant before abundance appears. Feel healthy before health manifests. For feeling is the secret, the key that unlocks the creative power of your subconscious mind. Remember that your self-talk is not merely describing your reality, it is creating your reality. For you are the author of your own experience, the director of your own life story, and every word you speak to yourself is shaping the narrative that your subconscious will work tirelessly to make manifest in your external circumstances. To shift your reality through self-talk, you must first become aware of your current inner dialogue. You must catch yourself in the act of negative self-conversation, and this requires a level of vigilance and self-observation that most people have never developed, for we are so accustomed to our mental chatter that we no longer hear it, like people who live near railroad tracks eventually stop noticing the trains. Begin by spending one day simply observing your thoughts without trying to change them. Notice how you speak to yourself when you wake up, when you face your daily tasks, when you interact with others, when unexpected events occur, when you prepare for sleep. And you may be shocked to discover how much of your inner dialogue consists of criticism, complaint, worry, and limitation. You might hear yourself saying things like, "I'm so stupid, I never get anything right, this always happens to me, I can't afford that, I'm too old, I'm too young, I'm not qualified, I don't have what it takes." And these statements, repeated thousands of times over years and decades, have created deep grooves in your consciousness, neural pathways that automatically direct your thoughts, feelings, and actions along predetermined routes. But here is the liberating truth that can set you free from these self-imposed limitations. Every moment presents a new opportunity to choose your thoughts, to direct your inner conversation, to speak a new word that can begin to create a new reality. For consciousness is infinitely flexible, infinitely creative, and the patterns you have built can be rebuilt. The programs you have installed can be overwritten. The process begins with interruption, with catching yourself mid-thought and deliberately choosing a different response. And this may feel artificial at first, like speaking a foreign language. But remember that your current thought patterns once felt foreign too. They became natural through repetition, and so can new, empowering patterns. When you catch yourself thinking, "I can't do this," immediately replace it with, "I am learning how to do this," or "I have all the resources I need within me." When you notice yourself saying, "This is too hard," shift to "This is an opportunity for growth," or "I am capable of meeting any challenge." And do this not once or twice, but consistently, persistently, with the patience of a gardener who knows that seeds planted today will become the harvest of tomorrow. This conscious interruption and redirection is not a form of self-deception or positive thinking that ignores reality. Rather, it is a recognition that reality itself is far more malleable than you have been led to believe. That your perception of what is real is largely determined by the lens through which you view the world, and this lens is constructed from your beliefs, your expectations, your habitual patterns of thought. When you begin to change your self-talk, you begin to change this lens. And as the lens changes, so does your perception of what is possible, what is available to you, what you deserve, what you can achieve. The resistance you may feel to this process is not evidence that it does not work, but rather evidence of how deeply ingrained your old patterns have become, how much your identity has been constructed around limitation and lack. Your ego, that aspect of your mind that derives security from the familiar, will tell you that positive self-talk is foolish, that you are setting yourself up for disappointment, that you should be realistic about your situation. But what the ego calls realism is often nothing more than a prison built from past experiences and future fears. True realism recognizes that you are a creative being living in a creative universe, that your thoughts have power, that your words have substance, that your consciousness is the very medium through which reality takes form. You're not lying to yourself when you speak positively in the face of negative circumstances. You are choosing which aspect of reality to focus upon, for every situation contains multiple possibilities, multiple interpretations, multiple potentials, and your self-talk determines which possibility you activate, which interpretation you embrace, which potential you manifest. The person who loses their job can speak to themselves of failure, rejection, and limited opportunities, or they can speak of new beginnings, hidden blessings, and unlimited potential, and these different conversations will lead to entirely different experiences, entirely different outcomes. As you develop the habit of conscious self-talk, you will notice that your emotional state begins to shift, your energy levels increase, your confidence grows, your relationships improve, and opportunities begin to appear that were always present but previously invisible to you. This is not magic. This is not wishful thinking. This is the natural result of aligning your inner conversation with your desired outcomes rather than with your fears and limitations. The transformation may not happen overnight, for you are rewiring decades of programming. But if you persist with faith and consistency, if you treat your mind with the same care you would give to a precious garden, watering it daily with thoughts of growth and possibility, you will begin to see evidence of change, first in small ways, then in larger ways, until eventually you look back and realize that you have become a different person living a different life. Not because your external circumstances forced change upon you, but because you chose to change the conversation happening within your own consciousness. Remember that every thought is a choice. Every word you speak to yourself is a vote for the kind of life you want to experience. And in any moment, regardless of what has happened before, regardless of what appears to be true now, you can cast a new vote, speak a new word, think a new thought. And in doing so, you plant the seed of a new reality that must eventually come to pass, for the law of consciousness is absolute, and what you consistently hold in mind must manifest in form. The language you use in your self-talk matters tremendously, for words are not neutral carriers of meaning, but living symbols that evoke specific feeling states, activate particular neural networks, and trigger corresponding chemical reactions in your body. And when you understand this, you realize that choosing your words is like choosing the ingredients for a recipe that will determine the flavor of your entire life. Experience. Instead of saying, "I hope things work out," say, "I know that everything is working for my highest good." Instead of, "I'll try to do better," say, "I am consistently improving." Instead of, "I wish I had more money," say, "I am a magnet for abundance and prosperity flows to me easily." For hope and wishing and trying are weak words that imply doubt, that suggest the possibility of failure, whereas knowing and being and having are strong words that convey certainty and activate the creative powers of your subconscious mind. Pay attention to the subtle implications of your word choices. Notice how saying, "I have to go to work," creates a feeling of obligation and burden, whereas saying, "I get to go to work," creates a sense of opportunity and gratitude. Observe how "I can't afford" that reinforces lack. "Well, that's not a priority for me." Right now maintains your sense of choice and abundance. Recognize how "I'm broke" is a statement of identity that your subconscious will work to maintain, whereas "I'm temporarily experiencing a cash flow adjustment" is a condition that implies change and resolution. These seemingly small linguistic shifts carry enormous power, for they represent fundamentally different relationships with your circumstances, different assumptions about your capabilities, different expectations about your future, and your subconscious mind, which operates below the threshold of conscious awareness, responds to these subtle nuances with extraordinary sensitivity and precision. The words you speak to yourself should always point toward what you want, not what you don't want. For the subconscious mind does not process negatives in the way the conscious mind does. When you say, "Don't forget," it hears forget. When you say, "I don't want to be sick," it focuses on sick. When you say, "I'm not a failure," it registers failure, which is why effective self-talk focuses on positive construction rather than negative denial. Tell yourself, "I remember easily," "I am healthy and vital," "I am successful and accomplished," and watch how your subconscious mind begins to organize your experience around these affirmative statements, bringing to your attention opportunities you previously overlooked, solutions you hadn't considered, resources you didn't know existed. This principle extends to every area of your inner dialogue, transforming not just what you affirm deliberately, but how you interpret the events of your daily life, how you describe challenges to yourself, how you frame setbacks and difficulties. Instead of saying, "This is a disaster," you might say, "This is an unexpected opportunity to demonstrate my resilience." Instead of, Why does this always happen to me? You could say, what is this situation teaching me that I need to know? Instead of I'm having the worst day, you might observe I'm having a challenging day that is strengthening my character and preparing me for greater success. The emotional resonance of your words matters as much as their literal meaning. For emotion is the language of the subconscious, the force that impresses your thoughts upon the creative medium of your mind. Words that inspire feelings of excitement, confidence, and anticipation will generate entirely different results than words that evoke worry, doubt, and resignation, even if they technically refer to the same situation. When you say I'm facing a difficult challenge, you create one emotional state. When you say I'm embarking on an exciting adventure, you create another, and these different states will lead your subconscious to notice different aspects of your environment, to attract different types of people and opportunities, to generate different ideas and solutions. A woman told Dr. Joseph Murphy she had been affirming, "I am not afraid," for weeks with no improvement in her anxiety. But when she changed her self-talk to, "I am courageous and confident," she began to feel a shift within days, because she was no longer reinforcing the very thing she wanted to eliminate, but was instead building the quality she wanted to embody. This illustrates a crucial principle. Your subconscious responds not to your intentions, but to your actual words. Not to what you mean, but to what you say, and every word carries with it a specific vibrational frequency that either supports or undermines your desired outcomes. Your self-talk should be personal, using I statements that claim ownership of your desired qualities. It should be present tense, as if your desire is already fulfilled. It should be positive, focusing on what you want rather than what you don't want. And it should be precise, using specific, clear language that leaves no room for misinterpretation by your subconscious mind. Vague affirmations like "things will get better" carry less power than specific declarations like "my income increases consistently every month," "my relationships are harmonious and fulfilling," "my health is perfect and my energy is unlimited," because specificity provides your subconscious with clear instructions about what to manifest. The timing of your language choices is also significant, for certain moments throughout your day offer heightened opportunities to impress new patterns upon your subconscious mind. The moments immediately upon waking, when your conscious mind is still quiet and your subconscious is most receptive, provide an ideal opportunity to speak words of power and possibility, setting the tone for your entire day. The moments before sleep, when your conscious defenses are relaxed and your subconscious is preparing to work throughout the night, offer another powerful window for positive programming through carefully chosen words and images. But perhaps most important of all is your response to unexpected events, sudden challenges, apparent setbacks. For these moments reveal your true beliefs and automatic programming more clearly than any formal affirmation session ever could. The person who responds to a traffic jam with this ruins everything demonstrates a very different internal operating system than the person who responds with this gives me extra time to practice patience and listen to something inspiring. And it is these spontaneous reactions that your subconscious accepts as authentic expressions of your true beliefs about life, yourself, and your place in the world. Remember that you are always speaking to your subconscious mind, whether consciously or unconsciously, whether formally or casually, whether in moments of deliberate affirmation or in moments of automatic reaction, and every word you speak is either building the life you want or reinforcing the patterns you wish to change. Choose your words as carefully as you would choose the materials for building your home, for in a very real sense, your words are the materials from which your life experience is constructed, and the quality of your words will determine the quality of your reality. Repetition is the mother of mastery, the key to subconscious programming, the method by which new thought patterns become established as your default mode of thinking. Yet most people give up on positive self-talk after a few days or weeks, declaring that it doesn't work, not understanding that they are attempting to overwrite years or decades of negative programming with a few half-hearted attempts at change. Your current self-talk patterns didn't develop overnight. They were built through countless repetitions over many years, reinforced by emotional experiences, validated by selective perception, and strengthened by the agreement of others who shared similar limiting beliefs. And to establish new patterns requires the same level of consistency, the same emotional investment, the same persistent application. Think of your mind as a vast field where thoughts are seeds, and whatever seeds you plant most frequently, water most consistently with your attention, and fertilize with your emotions, will grow into the dominant features of your mental landscape, crowding out other growth, determining what can and cannot flourish in your consciousness. The person who plants a few seeds of positive self-talk and then immediately returns to sowing thoughts of doubt and fear is like a gardener who plants vegetables and then oversows the same ground with weeds, wondering why their garden produces nothing of value. You must be willing to persist in your new self-talk even when you see no immediate evidence of change, even when circumstances seem to mock your affirmations, even when people around you express skepticism, for the lag time between cause and effect, between mental seed and physical fruit, tests the faith and determination of every person who undertakes this transformative practice. During this period of seemingly unrewarded effort, your old thought patterns will fight for survival. Your ego will ridicule your efforts. Your rational mind will present evidence that nothing is changing, and this is when most people abandon the practice, not realizing that they are often just days or weeks away from breakthrough, from the tipping point where new neural pathways become stronger than old ones, where new beliefs begin to automatically influence perception and behavior. This invisible process of transformation occurs beneath the surface of conscious awareness, like roots growing deep underground before the first green shoots appear above the soil. And just as a farmer does not dig up seeds every day to check their progress, you must trust in the natural law that governs the relationship between repeated thought and manifested experience. Every positive statement you make to yourself, every constructive word you choose over a destructive one, every moment of redirecting your inner dialogue from limitation to possibility creates microscopic changes in your neural architecture, builds new pathways in your brain, establishes fresh patterns of electrical and chemical activity that will eventually override the old programs that have governed your life. The resistance you encounter during this process is not evidence that the method is failing, but rather proof that it is working, for the old patterns would not fight so fiercely if they were not genuinely threatened by your new approach to self-communication. Your habitual thoughts have become like well-worn paths through a forest, easy to follow, familiar, comfortable even when they lead to destinations you do not desire, while your new patterns of positive self-talk are like cutting a fresh trail through uncharted territory, requiring more effort, more attention, more deliberate choice with each step until eventually the new path becomes as clear and accessible as the old one once was. A man told Dr. Joseph Murphy he had been affirming perfect health while suffering from a chronic condition, and after 3 weeks with no improvement, he was ready to give up, but Dr. Murphy encouraged him to continue for just 1 more month. And in that 4th week, he suddenly had an intuition to try a different treatment approach, met a new practitioner who specialized in his condition, and began a recovery that his doctors called remarkable, though he and Dr. Murphy knew it was simply the natural result of sustained positive self-talk, finally breaking through the barriers of old belief patterns. This breakthrough phenomenon occurs because consistent repetition of positive self-talk gradually shifts your dominant vibration, your predominant emotional state, your habitual focus of attention, and as these internal changes reach a critical mass, they begin to attract different people, opportunities, and circumstances into your experience, not through magic or wishful thinking, but through the natural operation of universal laws that govern the relationship between consciousness and experience. Your sustained positive self-talk changes the lens through which you perceive the world, causing you to notice solutions that were always present but previously invisible. to recognize opportunities that were always available but formerly overlooked, to attract relationships and resources that were always possible but not previously activated by your mental and emotional state. The key to successful repetition lies not merely in frequency, but in quality. Not just in how often you repeat your positive statements, but in how fully you invest yourself in them, how deeply you feel their truth, how completely you accept their reality. A single affirmation spoken with absolute conviction and emotional intensity can accomplish more than 100 affirmations recited mechanically without feeling. For the subconscious mind responds not to the quantity of your repetitions, but to the quality of your belief. Not to how many times you say something, but to how completely you accept what you are saying. Establish regular times throughout your day for deliberate, positive self-talk, moments when you consciously choose empowering words and phrases. But remember that the most powerful repetition occurs not in formal sessions, but in the countless informal moments of inner dialogue that fill your day. The automatic responses to traffic, weather, work situations, interpersonal challenges, unexpected events. These spontaneous reactions, repeated hundreds of times each day, carry more weight than any formal affirmation practice, for they represent your genuine beliefs, your authentic expectations, your true relationship with life itself. As you persist in redirecting your inner dialogue, you will begin to notice subtle changes in your energy levels, your emotional state, your confidence, your clarity of thought, and these early indicators are signs that your new patterns are taking root, that your repetition is creating the desired changes in your subconscious programming. Do not dismiss these small shifts as coincidence or wishful thinking, but recognize them as evidence that your consistent positive self-talk is working according to natural law, creating the foundation for larger transformations that must inevitably follow. Remember that every master of any skill or discipline became masterful through repetition, through doing the same fundamental practices over and over until they became second nature, until excellence became automatic, until what once required conscious effort became unconscious competence. Your mastery of positive self-talk follows the same principle, requiring the same dedication to consistent practice, the same willingness to repeat the fundamentals until they become your new default mode of thinking, until positive self-communication becomes as natural and automatic as breathing itself. Your self-talk must be accompanied by corresponding mental images, for the subconscious mind thinks in pictures, responds to imagery, and uses visualization as its primary language of creation. And when you combine powerful self-talk with vivid mental pictures of your desired reality, you create an irresistible force that compels your subconscious to manifest your vision in physical form. As you speak your affirmations, see yourself already living the reality you describe. Feel the emotions you would feel if your words were already true. Imagine the scenes, the sounds, the sensations of your fulfilled desire, for this multi-sensory approach impresses your subconscious mind far more deeply than words alone. When you say, "I am prosperous," see your bank account with the balance you desire. Imagine yourself making purchases without concern for price. Feel the security and freedom that comes with financial abundance. Visualize yourself helping others with your resources. For these mental pictures give substance to your words. They provide the blueprint that your subconscious mind needs to construct your new reality. The more detailed and emotionally charged your mental images, the more powerfully they activate the creative mechanisms of your subconscious. For vague, lifeless visualizations produce vague, lifeless results, while vivid, emotionally saturated mental pictures generate corresponding experiences in your physical world. The athlete who combines positive self-talk with mental rehearsal of perfect performance activates the same neural pathways as physical practice. The salesperson who sees themselves closing deals while affirming their success programs their mind for achievement. The student who visualizes themselves understanding and recalling information while speaking words of confidence enhances their learning capacity. For the subconscious mind cannot distinguish between a vividly imagined experience and a real one. This is not mere theory, but established scientific fact, for research has demonstrated that mental rehearsal creates actual physical changes in the brain, builds the same neural networks as real experience, and can improve performance almost as effectively as physical practice. Your imagination is not mere fantasy, but a powerful, creative tool, a laboratory where you can experiment with different versions of yourself, different outcomes, different possibilities, and whatever you repeatedly imagine with clarity and feeling becomes impressed upon your subconscious as a template for manifestation. When you visualize success while affirming your capabilities, you are not engaging in wishful thinking, but in deliberate creation. You are programming your mental computer with specific instructions about what to create, attract, and experience in your life. This is why worry is so destructive, for the chronic worrier is constantly combining negative self-talk with vivid images of disaster, programming their subconscious mind to create the very experiences they fear, proving that the principle works whether used consciously or unconsciously, constructively or destructively. The person who repeatedly says, "What if something terrible happens," while simultaneously picturing detailed scenarios of catastrophe, is using the same creative mechanism as the person who affirms success while visualizing achievement, but they are using it to create suffering instead of joy, limitation instead of expansion, fear instead of confidence. You must become the director of your mental movie, the author of your inner narrative, consciously choosing not only the words you speak to yourself, but also the images you project on the screen of your mind. For these internal conversations and visualizations are previews of coming attractions. They are the rehearsals for the performance of your life. Every mental picture you create, every internal dialogue you engage in, every emotional state you cultivate through your thoughts and images is a vote for the kind of experience you want to have, and your subconscious mind tallies these votes and creates experiences that match the majority. The most effective visualization occurs when you engage all of your senses, when you create mental experiences so rich and detailed that they feel absolutely real. For the more closely your visualization resembles actual experience, the more completely your subconscious accepts it as fact. See the colors in your mental pictures, hear the sounds, feel the textures, taste the flavors, smell the aromas. For each sensory detail adds another layer of reality to your visualization, another thread in the fabric of your desired experience. A woman came to Dr. Joseph Murphy paralyzed by fear of public speaking, her self-talk filled with images of humiliation and failure. Dr. Murphy taught her to spend 10 minutes each morning and evening combining the affirmation, "I speak with confidence and clarity," with vivid mental pictures of herself, addressing an audience with poise, seeing their engaged faces, hearing their applause, feeling the satisfaction of effective communication, and within 3 weeks, she delivered a presentation that earned her a promotion, demonstrating the power of aligned self-talk and visualization. This transformation occurred not through magic, but through the systematic reprogramming of her subconscious mind, which had previously been programmed for failure through her negative self-talk and fearful visualizations, and was now being programmed for success through positive affirmations and empowering mental images. Her subconscious mind, following its natural function, began to organize her thoughts, feelings, and actions around her new programming, giving her ideas for effective presentation techniques, attracting opportunities to practice, providing her with the confidence and clarity she had been affirming and visualizing. The timing of your visualization practice can significantly enhance its effectiveness, for there are certain states of consciousness that make your subconscious mind more receptive to new programming. The moments just before sleep, when your conscious mind is relaxing its vigilant guard and your subconscious is becoming more accessible, provide an ideal opportunity to implant positive images and affirmations. The moments immediately upon waking, when your mind is still in the receptive alpha state, offer another powerful window for visualization and positive self-talk. But perhaps the most powerful time for combining affirmations with visualization is during those moments throughout your day when you catch yourself engaging in negative self-talk and fearful imagery. For these are the moments when your subconscious is already activated and receptive, already engaged in the creative process, and by consciously redirecting both your words and your mental pictures toward what you desire, you transform moments of unconscious negative creation into moments of conscious positive creation. Remember that your subconscious mind is always creating, always manifesting, always bringing into experience whatever you consistently think about, speak about, and visualize, whether you do so deliberately or accidentally, whether you create consciously or unconsciously. The choice is not whether to use this creative power, for you are using it every moment of every day. The choice is whether to use it by design or by default, whether to direct it toward your desires or allow it to manifest your fears, whether to become a conscious creator or remain an unconscious victim of your own undirected mental activity. The emotional component of your self-talk cannot be overstated, for emotion is the fuel that powers thought into manifestation, the energy that impresses your words upon the subconscious mind, the force that transforms abstract ideas into concrete realities, and without genuine feeling behind your affirmations, they remain empty words that bounce off the surface of consciousness without penetrating to the creative depths. You must learn to generate the feeling of your wish fulfilled, to emotionally embody the state you desire, to speak to yourself not from a place of lack seeking fulfillment, but from a place of fulfillment expressing gratitude, for this shift in emotional position changes everything about how your affirmations are received and processed by your subconscious mind. When you say, "I'm wealthy while feeling poor," "I'm healthy while feeling sick," "I'm loved while feeling lonely," you create an internal conflict that neutralizes your words. But when you can generate even a small spark of the feeling that would accompany your fulfilled desire and combine it with your self-talk, you set in motion forces that must inevitably produce corresponding external conditions. This alignment between word and feeling creates a coherent signal that your subconscious mind receives without confusion or contradiction, a clear instruction that activates its creative powers in a focused and unified direction. The key to this emotional alignment lies not in forcing yourself to feel something you do not feel, which creates tension and resistance, but in gently coaxing yourself into the emotional state through memory, imagination, and gradual conditioning. Remember a time when you felt genuinely successful, even if in a small way, and recall not just the circumstances, but the actual feeling, the emotional texture of that moment. Then transfer this feeling to your current affirmations about success. Think of times when you felt deeply loved and appreciated, even briefly, and allow this emotional memory to infuse your self-talk about relationships and self-worth. Use your imagination to step into the emotional reality of your desired state, asking yourself not just what would I have if my desire were fulfilled, but more importantly, how would I feel? What would be my emotional signature, my energetic frequency? This is why gratitude is such a powerful emotion to cultivate in your self-talk. For when you speak to yourself with thanksgiving for what you desire as if it were already yours, you create the emotional signature of fulfillment. You broadcast a frequency that attracts matching experiences. You align yourself with the creative principle that responds to faith and feeling rather than doubt and desperation. Gratitude has the unique quality of being both acknowledgement and attraction, both recognition of good already received and magnetism for good yet to come. And when you can genuinely feel grateful for your desired reality as if it were already manifest, you occupy the same emotional state as someone who has actually received their good. The person who has learned to speak to themselves with the emotional conviction of already having received their good, who can maintain this feeling, state despite contrary appearances, who can sustain this emotional frequency through the lag time between cause and effect, possesses the master key to deliberate creation. This is not self-deception or denial of reality, but rather the recognition that there are two levels of reality. the outer world of appearances and the inner world of creative cause, and that by aligning yourself with the inner reality of your desire through feeling, you set in motion the forces that will transform the outer reality to match. Your emotions, while engaging in self-talk, act as a carrier wave, a vibrational frequency that determines not only how deeply your words penetrate into your subconscious mind, but also what kind of people, opportunities, and circumstances you attract into your experience. When you speak to yourself with feelings of enthusiasm, confidence, and expectation, you emanate an energy that draws corresponding experiences. But when your affirmations are accompanied by doubt, fear, or desperation, you broadcast a different signal entirely, one that repels what you want and attracts what you fear. A businessman told Dr. Joseph Murphy that his company was facing bankruptcy, and Dr. Murphy instructed him to speak to himself each day with the emotional intensity of a man whose business was thriving, to generate feelings of success, satisfaction, and abundance while affirming, "My business is blessed and prospers in divine order." And though it seemed absurd given his circumstances, he persisted in this practice, and within 6 weeks, an unexpected contract came through that not only saved his business, but launched it to new heights of success. This transformation occurred because his sustained emotional state of success, maintained despite contrary appearances, aligned him with opportunities and resources that were always available but not previously accessible to someone operating from fear and desperation. His new emotional frequency made him attractive to different people, open to different possibilities, aware of different solutions, not through magic, but through the natural operation of consciousness and attraction. The cultivation of appropriate emotional states during self-talk requires practice, patience, and sometimes creativity, for we have been conditioned to let our emotions be determined by our circumstances, rather than recognizing that we have the power to choose our emotional state, independent of external conditions. Begin by identifying the core feeling that would accompany the fulfillment of your desire, whether it is peace, joy, confidence, love, security, or excitement. Then practice generating this feeling through memory, imagination, visualization, or even physical movement and breathing techniques that naturally evoke the desired emotional state. You must understand that your emotional state, while engaging in self-talk, is not a response to your circumstances, but a creative cause that generates circumstances. And when you master the art of choosing your emotional frequency, independent of external conditions, you become truly free from the tyranny of appearances, able to create from the inside out, rather than merely react from the outside in. This represents a fundamental shift in your relationship with life, from victim of circumstances to creator of experiences, from reactor to conditions to generator of conditions. The mastery of emotional self-talk requires you to become increasingly sensitive to the subtle differences between emotions that may seem similar, but carry very different creative power. Hope and faith may appear similar, but feel completely different. Hope contains doubt and uncertainty, while faith contains knowing and assurance. Wanting and having may seem to point in the same direction, but create opposite results. Wanting reinforces the state of not having, while having activates the creative powers of fulfillment. Trying and being may sound like steps toward the same goal, but generate entirely different outcomes. Trying implies effort against resistance, while being implies natural expression of what already is. As you develop greater emotional sophistication in your self-talk, you will discover that you can literally feel your way into your desired reality, that by consistently choosing the emotional state of your wish fulfilled, you gradually become that state. You embody that reality, you live from that consciousness, and from this transformed inner condition, the outer manifestation becomes not only possible, but inevitable. The timing and consistency of your self-talk practice determines its effectiveness, for the subconscious mind is most receptive during certain states of consciousness, particularly in the drowsy state just before sleep and immediately upon awakening, when the critical factor of the conscious mind is relaxed and suggestions can pass directly into the deeper levels of mind without resistance or analysis. These threshold moments between waking and sleeping, sometimes called the hypnagogic and hypnopompic states, are golden opportunities for reprogramming your consciousness, for during these times, your brain waves slow from beta to alpha and theta frequencies, creating a state similar to hypnosis, where your subconscious mind becomes highly impressionable and responsive to suggestion. Make it your practice to speak to yourself with positive, affirming words as the last thing before sleep and the first thing upon awakening, for these bookend conversations frame your entire day and night. They set the tone for your dream state, where much subconscious processing occurs, and they establish the mental atmosphere in which you begin each new day. The words you speak to yourself in these liminal moments carry extraordinary power, for they sink into your consciousness like seeds planted in fertile soil. They work on your mind throughout the night and prepare your mental ground for the experiences of the coming day. During the drowsy state before sleep, your conscious defenses are naturally lowered, your analytical mind is quieting, your subconscious is preparing to take over the functions of healing, restoration, and integration that occur during rest and in this receptive state. Positive affirmations can penetrate deeply into your consciousness without the usual resistance from doubt, skepticism, or contrary evidence. This is why many successful people make it a practice to review their goals, recite their affirmations, and visualize their desired outcomes just before sleep, for they understand that this twilight state offers direct access to the creative powers of the subconscious mind. Similarly, the moments immediately upon awakening present another window of extraordinary receptivity, for your conscious mind has not yet fully engaged with the day's concerns. Your subconscious is still easily accessible, and the neural patterns established during sleep are still malleable and responsive to conscious direction. Use these precious minutes not to immediately check your phone or rush into activity, but to speak to yourself words of power, possibility, and positive expectation, for these morning conversations set the vibrational tone for your entire day. During the day, establish regular intervals for conscious self-talk sessions, perhaps every hour on the hour, taking just 30 seconds to remind yourself of your chosen affirmations, to realign with your desired state, to interrupt any negative patterns that may have crept in through habit or external influence. These micro-sessions of positive self-talk serve as course corrections throughout your day, preventing the accumulation of negative momentum, maintaining your connection to your desired outcomes, and reinforcing the new patterns you are seeking to establish in your subconscious mind. The power of consistency cannot be overemphasized, for it is better to spend 2 minutes twice daily in focused, feeling-filled self-talk than to spend an hour once a week in mechanical repetition. Better to maintain a steady, gentle pressure on your subconscious mind than to apply sporadic, intense force that quickly dissipates. Consistency creates momentum. Momentum creates breakthroughs, and breakthroughs create lasting transformation, while sporadic effort, no matter how intense, dissipates like waves against a shore, creating temporary disturbance but no lasting change in the landscape of consciousness. Your self-talk should become as natural and regular as breathing. Not a special practice you do sometimes, but an ongoing conversation that runs like a golden thread through your entire day, constantly reinforcing your chosen direction, constantly affirming your desired identity, constantly claiming your intended destiny. This requires developing a split awareness, a part of your consciousness that monitors your inner dialogue even while you're engaged in external activities, catching negative patterns before they gain momentum, redirecting limiting thoughts before they can impress themselves upon your subconscious, choosing empowering words even in challenging circumstances. The development of this monitoring consciousness, this internal observer that watches over your self-talk, is perhaps one of the most valuable skills you can cultivate, for it transforms you from an unconscious victim of your own mental habits into a conscious creator of your inner environment. This observer notices when you slip into old patterns of self-criticism, complaint, or limitation, and gently redirects your attention toward thoughts and words that support your desired outcomes, rather than reinforcing your current limitations. A teacher came to Dr. Joseph Murphy complaining that despite her affirmations of abundance, she remained in financial struggle. And when Dr. Murphy inquired about her practice, he discovered she only engaged in positive self-talk during formal meditation sessions, while the rest of her day was filled with complaints about prices, worries about money, and conversations about lack with colleagues. So Dr. Murphy taught her to maintain a watching brief over her mental conversations throughout the day, to catch and redirect negative self-talk whenever it arose, to make her entire waking life a prayer of prosperity, and within 3 months, she received an unexpected inheritance and a significant raise, proving that consistent, sustained self-talk creates an accumulative effect that eventually breaks through all resistance. This transformation occurred because she learned to treat every moment as an opportunity for positive self-programming, every conversation as a chance to affirm abundance rather than reinforce lack, every thought as a vote for the kind of experience she wanted to create. Her breakthrough came not from more intense formal sessions, but from greater consistency in informal moments, not from trying harder during designated times, but from maintaining awareness throughout all times. The cumulative power of consistent self-talk operates like compound interest in the realm of consciousness, each positive thought building upon the last, each empowering word adding to the momentum of transformation, each moment of conscious choice strengthening your ability to choose consciously in the next moment. This accumulative effect explains why some people experience dramatic results after weeks or months of consistent practice, while others who engage in sporadic efforts see little change, for transformation occurs not through occasional intense effort, but through sustained, gentle pressure applied consistently over time. Understanding the natural rhythms of consciousness allows you to maximize the effectiveness of your self-talk practice, working with your mind's natural receptivity rather than against it, using the times when your subconscious is most open rather than trying to force entry when it is closed. The morning sets the intention for your day, the evening programs your night, the regular intervals maintain your alignment, and the moment-by-moment awareness ensures that you are always moving in your desired direction rather than unconsciously drifting toward what you want to avoid. As you develop greater sensitivity to the rhythms of your own consciousness, you may discover other times during your day when your mind becomes naturally receptive to positive suggestion, perhaps during meditation, exercise, creative activities, or moments of natural beauty and inspiration. These are gifts from your consciousness, opportunities to deepen your practice and accelerate your transformation. And learning to recognize and utilize these moments of heightened receptivity will multiply the effectiveness of your self-talk practice exponentially. The social dimension of your self-talk requires careful consideration, for while your inner conversation is private and sovereign, you live in a world of other minds, other voices, other influences that can either support or sabotage your efforts to maintain positive self-dialogue. And you must learn to protect your mental atmosphere from contamination while remaining open and loving toward others. Be selective about whom you share your self-talk practice with. For many people, operating from their own limitations and fears, will mock what they don't understand, will project their doubts onto your faith, will attempt to pull you back into the collective consciousness of limitation that they inhabit, not from malice, but from ignorance of the creative power of directed thought. This does not mean you should become isolated or secretive, but rather that you should be wise about when and how you discuss your inner work, recognizing that your self-talk practice is like a tender plant that needs protection until it has grown strong enough to withstand the winds of skepticism and doubt. The early stages of transformation are particularly vulnerable, for your new patterns of thought have not yet become deeply rooted. Your faith in positive self-talk may still be fragile, and the opinions of others can shake your confidence or plant seeds of doubt that undermine your progress. When others speak negatively about you, about life, about possibilities, you must learn to maintain your own counsel, to let their words pass by without taking root in your consciousness, to silently affirm the opposite of what they claim. For you are not responsible for what others think or say, only for what you accept as true in your own mind. This requires developing a kind of mental immunity, a protective barrier that allows you to hear what others say without absorbing their limitations into your own consciousness, to witness their negativity without participating in it, to remain centered in your own truth while navigating a world filled with conflicting voices and competing beliefs. The development of this mental immunity does not require you to become hard-hearted or judgmental toward those who think differently, but rather to recognize that everyone operates from their own level of understanding, their own experience of life, their own collection of beliefs and limitations. When someone tells you that your dreams are impossible, they are not necessarily speaking about your dreams, but about their own perceived limitations. When they express doubt about positive thinking, they may be revealing their own struggles with faith and confidence. When they mock your efforts at self-improvement, they may be defending their own decision to remain unchanged. Understanding this principle allows you to maintain compassion for others while protecting your own mental environment, to love people without adopting their limitations, to interact harmoniously while remaining true to your own vision and values. You can acknowledge their right to their beliefs while claiming your right to yours. You can respect their choices while making different choices for yourself. You can maintain relationship without surrendering your individuality. The conversations you have with others are extensions of your self-talk, external expressions of your internal dialogue, and as you elevate your inner conversation, you will find that your outer conversations naturally become more positive, more inspiring, more creative, attracting people who resonate with your new frequency, while repelling those who are committed to negativity. This is not a conscious process of selection, but a natural law of attraction that draws like-minded people together while creating distance between those operating on incompatible frequencies. As your self-talk becomes more positive and empowering, you will find yourself naturally gravitating toward conversations about possibilities rather than problems, solutions rather than complaints, growth rather than stagnation, and people who share these interests will be drawn into your sphere, while those who prefer to focus on limitations and difficulties will gradually drift away. This process can sometimes be challenging, especially when it involves long-standing relationships, but it is a natural consequence of your expanding consciousness and should be welcomed rather than resisted. A salesman told Dr. Joseph Murphy that his colleagues constantly talked about how hard it was to make sales, how the economy was bad, how customers were difficult, and he found himself adopting their pessimistic outlook despite his efforts at positive self-talk. So Dr. Murphy advised him to create a mental shield by silently affirming divine success is mine now whenever he heard negative talk, and to minimize his participation in complaint sessions while maximizing his time in constructive self-dialogue. And within a month, his sales had doubled while his colleagues remained stuck in their self-created limitations. This transformation illustrates a crucial principle. You cannot control the conversations around you, but you can control your internal response to them. You cannot change what others say, but you can change what you allow to influence your own thinking. The practice of silent counter-affirmation, of mentally affirming positive truths while externally listening to negative talk, provides a powerful method for maintaining your own mental atmosphere while navigating social situations that might otherwise compromise your progress. The key to successful social navigation while maintaining positive self-talk lies in developing what might be called conscious participation. To engage with others authentically while remaining rooted in your own center, to contribute to conversations without losing your individual perspective, to be present with people without becoming infected by their limitations. This requires a delicate balance between openness and protection, between participation and detachment, between love and discrimination. You must remember that your self-talk is your sanctuary, your sacred space, your creative workshop where you design your destiny, and no one has the right to pollute this space with their limitations unless you give them permission through your attention and agreement. So guard your inner conversation as you would guard a treasure. For indeed, it is the greatest treasure you possess. This guarding is not a defensive posture, but an affirmative practice. Not about keeping others out, but about keeping yourself centered, not about building walls, but about maintaining clarity. The social dimension of self-talk also includes your own external speech, the words you speak aloud to others, for these external expressions of your inner dialogue have the power to reinforce or undermine your private self-talk practice. When you consistently speak words of possibility, appreciation, and confidence to others, you strengthen these patterns in your own consciousness. But when you participate in conversations of complaint, criticism, and limitation, you weaken the positive patterns you are trying to establish through your private practice. This creates an opportunity for what might be called conscious leadership, the practice of elevating the conversations around you through your own positive contributions, of introducing themes of possibility and solution into discussions that might otherwise focus on problems and obstacles, of modeling the kind of thinking and speaking that you want to see more of in the world. This is not about preaching or lecturing others, but about consistently offering a different perspective, a more empowering interpretation, a more hopeful possibility. As you master the social dimension of self-talk, you will discover that you can maintain your positive inner dialogue even in challenging social environments, that you can protect your mental atmosphere without isolating yourself from others, that you can be a positive influence in the world while continuing to grow and expand through your own practice. This mastery represents one of the highest achievements of self-talk practice, the ability to remain centered in truth while navigating a world of many voices, many opinions, and many influence. The ultimate purpose of transforming your self-talk is not merely to improve your circumstances, acquire possessions, or achieve worldly success, though these may certainly follow, but to align yourself with the creative principle of the universe, to become a conscious co-creator with the infinite intelligence that governs all life, to realize your true nature as a spiritual being with unlimited potential, temporarily expressing through physical form. When you speak to yourself from this elevated perspective, when your self-talk reflects your divine nature rather than your human limitations, when your inner conversation resonates with truth rather than illusion, you experience a transformation that goes far beyond material manifestation to touch the very essence of your being. You begin to understand that your self-talk is not just a psychological technique, but a spiritual practice. Not just a method for getting what you want, but a way of becoming who you truly are. Not just a tool for manipulating reality, but a means of harmonizing with the fundamental laws that govern existence. This shift in understanding transforms your relationship with the practice itself, elevating it from a means to an end in itself, from a technique for achieving desires to a method of self-realization. From a way of changing circumstances to a path of inner awakening. The person who has mastered their self-talk has mastered themselves, has taken dominion over their mind, has claimed their birthright as a creative being. And this mastery brings a peace that surpasses understanding, a confidence that cannot be shaken by external events, a joy that wells up from within, regardless of circumstances. This inner transformation radiates outward, affecting not only your own experience, but the experience of everyone who comes into contact with your elevated consciousness. For you become a living demonstration of the power of aligned thought, a beacon of possibility in a world often dominated by limitation and fear. As you continue this practice over months and years, you will notice a natural evolution in the quality and content of your inner dialogue, a gradual refinement that reflects your deepening understanding of the principles at work. The desperate affirmations of the beginner, driven by want and need, gradually give way to the confident declarations of one who has experienced the power of consciousness, and these in turn evolve into the peaceful recognitions of one who has come to trust completely in the creative process. As you continue this practice, you will discover that your self-talk becomes increasingly refined, moving from crude affirmations of material desire to subtle recognitions of spiritual truth. From desperate attempts to change conditions to calm acknowledgments of eternal principles, from the frantic pursuit of effects to the peaceful cultivation of causes. This evolution is natural and inevitable, for as you experience the fruits of positive self-talk, as you witness the transformation of your circumstances through the power of your words, you begin to understand that you are not manipulating some external force, but aligning with your own essential nature. The early stages of practice may focus on specific desires and goals, on changing particular circumstances or achieving certain outcomes, and this is perfectly appropriate, for these experiences serve as training wheels that teach you to trust the process and develop skill in conscious creation. But as you advance, you discover that the real treasure is not what you get, but what you become, not the changes in your external world, but the transformation of your inner being, not the manifestation of desires, but the realization of your true identity as a conscious creator. You will find that as your inner conversation elevates, your outer world transforms not through force or struggle, but through a natural unfoldment, like a flower opening to the sun, like a river flowing to the sea, like a seed becoming what it was always destined to be. This effortless transformation occurs because you are no longer working against your nature, but with it, no longer trying to impose your will upon reality, but allowing reality to express the truth of your elevated consciousness. No longer fighting life, but flowing with the creative intelligence that seeks expression through you. The highest form of self-talk transcends the personal altogether, moving beyond individual desires and concerns to embrace universal principles and cosmic truths. You begin to speak to yourself not as a separate being trying to get something from life, but as a unique expression of life itself, celebrating your existence, acknowledging your connection to all that is, affirming the fundamental goodness and intelligence of the creative process that flows through you and as you. This expanded awareness brings with it a profound sense of responsibility, for you realize that your thoughts and words affect not only your own experience, but contribute to the collective consciousness of humanity. Your positive self-talk becomes a service to the world, your elevated inner dialogue a gift to the whole, your transformed consciousness a light that helps illuminate the path for others who are still struggling in darkness and limitation. The journey of transforming your self-talk is ultimately a journey home to yourself, to the recognition that you have always had within you the power to create your reality through the words you speak in the secret places of your heart, and that every moment offers you the opportunity to speak a new word, to think a new thought, to create a new world. This homecoming is not a destination but a continuous recognition, not an achievement but an ongoing realization, not a final arrival but a perpetual awakening to what has always been true about your nature and potential. The practice deepens and refines itself naturally over time, requiring less conscious effort as it becomes more integrated into your being, less mechanical technique as it becomes more authentic expression, less doing as it becomes more being. You discover that positive self-talk is not something you do, but something you are. Not an activity you engage in, but a consciousness you embody. Not a practice you perform, but a truth you live. Let your self-talk be a song of praise for life, a hymn of gratitude for existence, an affirmation of the infinite possibilities that await your recognition and acceptance. For when you speak to yourself from this place of power and truth, your reality has no choice but to shift, to align, to manifest the glory that you have claimed in consciousness, and you become living proof that thoughts become things, that words create worlds, that the conversation you have with yourself determines the life you experience, now and forevermore. In this ultimate understanding, You recognize that transforming your self-talk was never really about changing your circumstances, but about remembering who you are, never about acquiring what you lack, but about expressing what you have always possessed, never about becoming something new, but about unveiling what was always true. And in this recognition, you find not only the fulfillment of your desires, but the peace of knowing that you are exactly where you belong, doing exactly what you came here to do, being exactly who you are meant to be.